Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly broadcast. My name is Honish. I am joined by David Bartels. This show is brought to you by everhome.io. Please visit everhome.io if you are a real estate agent who is looking to make some dramatic changes in your life. Learn about the only full-service company that now allows homeowners to directly input into the MLS. David, how are you this week?
I'm awesome. I am enjoying the cooler weather. I put my first sweater on of the season.
I actually had to put a little beanie on the other day. It actually got cold enough down here in San Diego. I think it got to 35.
I have more here than you, so I don't need a beanie yet.
But I get to sit on my porch this morning and enjoy a beautiful sunrise. The only problem with San Diego proper is the fact that planes land here every 4.5 minutes, so we'll see how that goes. Today, we're going to stick to the theme that we started last week because it was so popular, both online and not online, videos and audios and broadcasts. Again, everybody, thank you. That was a big video and big audio for us last week. It has taught us something, so we're going to stick to that theme for this week to yet again another book that I'm reading, which I truly enjoy and love. It's called UnF Yourself. Yes, I shortened it, but it is a very popular book. I think Gary did a phenomenal job. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have, we'll start with sort of the overview of the book, which is self-talk, right? 85% of our actions are based on our subconscious. That's not something I'm making up. That's a clinical fact that they've actually tested. So our negative talk will create a subconscious action in us. And it is my experience as somebody who has coached, as somebody who has worked with a bunch of real estate offices, negative talk is a driving factor with how people dictate their business. So let's start right there, David. How does one, well, let's just talk about your office. How do you keep your staff motivated and in a positive frame of mind to go out and to help customers? We've talked about it, almost ad nauseum here about being an advocate, but part of that is being positive and being upbeat in your daily action. So let's start right there. How does one remain optimistic and positive?
Gosh, I mean, I can tell you this, is I don't know the full answer to that, other than to say I do know what you focus on grows. And if you focus on positive, the positive tends to shine brighter, and if you focus on negative, it seems to get a little darker. And so we got to focus on what we want to accomplish. That's number one. The other thing for me is really focusing on the things that we can do and the things that we can control versus the things that we can't do anything about. There are a lot of things that are outside of our ability to control, as much as we have this controlling mindset and we want to control outcomes. I've just learned over the years is that I'm not as omnipotent as I once thought I was, and that there are some things that I can control and influence, and there are other things that I have no control or influence over. And I really try to focus on the things that I can do, stay within myself, control the things that I control, which is mostly my response and attitude to things that might otherwise derail my focus or momentum.
I completely agree with you. It's interesting that you bring those things up. So for those, I'm working on a thing called the Life Hack. Much like every other self-help book, it's just me combining more self-help books and things that have worked for me. I just know that negative thoughts tend to stay in somebody's mind. Doesn't matter if you're giving something up or you're trying to make a life change. That thought is only mathematically going to stay in your head for about 2 minutes. So if you can get out of it for a couple of minutes, you have a better chance of changing your direction. There's a little life hack for everybody. I will share my life hack. When I am having a negative thought, be it about a relationship, or I'm a person in the program, or thinking about doing something incredibly stupid and giving up what time I have, it's 2 minutes. It's just 2 minutes. So I constantly I told someone this, I keep on my cell phone the lyrics to a song every morning. I get a YouTube video, I leave it on. And when I feel that I'm going to be negative or my brain is going to take me to a negative spot, and that's definitely going to be a reflection of my day, I excuse myself, go to the bathroom, and I look at the lyrics and try to learn the lyrics to that song for 2 or 3 minutes. And by the time I get through it, whatever negative thought or whatever direction I was going before is gone. So there's a little life hack from Lee Honish. It's one of my favorite little tricks that I've been using lately to keep myself positive. I want to be positive all the time. I know that sounds crazy for people who actually know me, but that's the direction I'm actually going. I want to be that kind of person. There's no other reason to read all these books, David. Let's go to number one within the UnF Yourself book, and let's talk about it for real estate agents. And it's the one that I have the biggest problem with when I'm coaching or doing a presentation: willingness. I think in everybody's mind, they are truly willing to make changes and that they want to make changes. I think in their mind they do. But there is definitely a deviation from what they're thinking to what their actions are. And he talks about it in the book. You know, would you be willing to streak naked across a mall to get a listing? Generally, the answer from my experience would be yes. I would do it personally to get a listing. I mean, it's 3%.
Thank God I don't need a listing that bad.
I don't know, 6%, David. I might go pretty far for that.
It would be a no to me. So
I don't even want to look. I don't even want to look at the questions. So Victoria is on here. Victoria, would you streak naked across the Vista Mall for a listing? I'm waiting to see what her actual response is. The reason I bring that up, that's willingness.
I would pay somebody. I would offer that as a listing incentive. Who wants my listing? First one to streak. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take the listing that way. I would offer it, but I wouldn't accept.
It's a great concept. No, maybe in a bikini, she said, but still. All right. So in our minds, we have this willingness, right? I'm willing to do anything to be a top producer or make the money. There's a big statement to that, and he talks about this in the book. You know, everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. There are entrapments to all of that. To be a top producer, you're giving up a lot of your life. You have to understand the complete parameters. How do you keep everybody willing in your office to do what's necessary to be successful? I mean, forget shooting for the top of the top, being in the top 5 or 10% of agents, because you are putting in that many hours. You are giving up parts of your life. I'm not going to lie about that. When I was speaking on the road and that was my life, I knew that I was giving up time with my daughter. You know, I was chasing what I was chasing. And it helps that I was a workaholic at that time. So I don't want to be that person, right? I want to have an equal balance in my life and my free time. So let's talk about it. Where is the balance in all of this, David, to keep someone willing and keep someone motivated?
Well, I don't know. You know, balance is maybe the biggest, challenge. I mean, I'm not sure that you can find that true balance of utopia. I mean, the best example I can see of balance is what my wife is able to do. Even though she's in the stock market business and has a lot of responsibility and starts really early, she, mid-afternoon, she starts at 5:30 in the morning, but by mid-afternoon, 3-4 o'clock, she's like, I got to go do something else. And she takes the time to exercise and be a mom and be a wife and, takes care of herself. And it's really impressive. Why me? I start about the same time she does, but I'm usually wrapping up about 10 o'clock at night most days. So it makes it so I'm not sure I'm the right guy to ask about how to do that, though I do desire that. I do desire some balance. I haven't yet been able to quite achieve that. And part of that is the massive level of motivation that I have, the massive amount of responsibility that I feel to my clients and to employees. And there's just so much to do in such a short period of time. And I'm hoping now with the big expansion that we're doing that I'll be able to hire some of those jobs out, and I'll actually be able to, go for a walk at 6 o'clock without returning all my phone calls for 3 miles. So I wish I had answers to that. I desire it. I just don't know how to do it.
No, well, and that's, that's one of the things that people don't think about, right? I'm willing to put in the effort. I will give a life hack here, since that's what I'm working on, after all. For me, I'm now a scheduler, right? I try to stay to a regimen of what my day looks like. I get up. I'm sure that this will be much to the chagrin of all of my exes. I work in, cleaning the house, cleaning, actually doing things that are constructive for the household. And I find that by having that worked in, I'm taking an hour to meditate, I'm taking an hour to walk, I'm putting 3 or 4 hours. For me, it's dedicated time on a computer. So I've got to structure all these things out for me. And when I write them all out at the start of my day with the goals that I want to achieve, I have a better balance on the day. And I clean toilets now, which seems to bring me some level of zen. And it also teaches me I need to make more money because I have clearly not paid people enough to clean my toilets. I've learned a lot by cleaning toilets. I have learned a new level of drive that I didn't know existed.
I can tell you that my wife was gone last week, and I learned something about myself, and that is I'm a slob at heart. Right. And I showed her a picture, and but I cleaned the house, and I showed her. He said, "Yeah, but the house looks clean." I said, "Yeah, because there's a reasonably good chance you're coming home tonight." And I didn't want you to see me this way.
I don't want to diverge, but that's straight out of the love language book right there, buddy. So true. Why'd you clean the house? She's coming home tonight. That's a no-brainer in my universe.
Right, I'm like, dude. But it goes to show you how motivation, but the whole point of that is how motivation really drives your life choices. Because when you're talking about balance, one of the things that I've learned over the years, for better or for worse, is that people have the time and money to do what's important to them. I mean, you figure it out. People figure out how to, they have the time and money to do the things that are most important to them. And so if having, so the truth of the matter, if I look at my own situation, who works, like a crazy person, 6 days a week, the reality is that it's a choice. I literally make a choice to spend my time that way versus other times. And so I don't have any room to complain that I'm busy and to complain that I don't have the kind of balance I have. I get to make a choice, and I get to make that choice every single day as to what kind of day I'm going to have. And the reality is that if I don't return these 30 emails tonight, until tomorrow or the next day, is the world really going to come to, an end? Is it, the reality is just, I turn my phone off on Friday nights until Saturday night, and no email and no anything. And guess what? The world doesn't come to an end on Saturday night. When I turn my phone on, it's like a lottery. I don't know if I won or I lost, but it's, but generally we got somebody else handled it. So, these are decisions we make as individuals based on what's most important to us.
And he talks about that dramatically in the book. And if I were telling a realtor to apply that to their business, the question is, how far are you willing to go? And the number one question I always ask realtors or anybody that I'm coaching is, what's your nut? What's the bottom line? What kind of money do you need to make? And let's really talk about what it takes to make that kind of money and how much you're giving up of your actual life. And that's really important. Yeah. I don't think people really take any of that into account. They just, houses are so great here in, Southern California, and all I need to do is get one listing per month. Okay, well, let's talk about this objectively. How much time are you putting into marketing to get that one house? How much time are you meeting clients? I mean, what are you giving up to hit that goal?
I think that real estate is such a feast or famine business, that when you're busy, you really want to be busy. You don't want to put it off. And when you're not, you're wishing that you were busy. So so real estate really is one of those businesses that facilitates extremes, the feast or the famine. We talked about You have a good month, a great month, a bad month, a bad month, a bad month, a good month, a great month. And, most real estate people are on these cycles where they have a relatively good month, and then they could go 2 or 3 months without any income. And so when they have an opportunity, they do whatever it takes in order to lock that thing down, because, income can be elusive sometimes. It's not that different than the way my grandparents managed money to the way that I might manage money. They were, because they had gone through, really hard times, they had a tendency to save and to be more conservative about their purchase decisions and the material belongings and that kind of thing, where a generation like mine who hasn't really had that experience has a tendency to be a little less regimented about how they spend their money, and use money to achieve material things or things that feel good. So I think real estate is really tough to apply this model to, because it's more seasonal than it is daily. But then again, I see a lot of real estate people who have that play golf twice a week too, and have a pretty good quality of life. I'm just not one of them. Teach me.
Schedule better. Let's start with the basics. Schedule better. Okay, well, the second step of NFing yourself in the world of real estate, which I firmly believe in, is you are wired to win. And he brings up a great point in the book. He goes, oh, so you don't think you're winning? Look at your life. You're winning at your life. At this point, you are winning. And most of us, and I don't want to be blunt, we're in North America. If you're having a problem being humble about your life or realizing how great your life really is, go look at the rest of the world. You are in a unique position as a self-employed person doing real estate, where if you would, I really believe this about a lot of people, if you fundamentally change your mindset of winning and being successful, you will. I'm a law of attraction guy. You put it out there, you're going to get it back. If you're going to be an advocate, you're going to get business. If 99% of your business is free, that 1% will provide for you and your family indefinitely. We are wired to win. Our fight or flight instincts by themselves make us phenomenal individual. David, when you started off with this real estate company, we haven't talked about it in a while. You started everything from ground zero to now getting ready to take a company public and potentially be worth, I'm sure you've done this at least once in your head. You're looking at maybe billions or trillions in your future, which is not a joke. You had to have run that through your head.
No, but all right, let's
you
be.
Thought billions.
Certainly
you must have thought billions at least.
Well, $1 billion valuation,
Yeah.
but the investment bankers are saying it could be $1 billion in 5 years or 10 years. I don't know, but yeah, I do the math in my head, and it's unfathomable to me. I just really try to stay focused on what I need to do today in order to do a good job for our investors, for our employees, and our customers. And if you just do that, then everything else seems to take care of itself.
Well, I'm going to throw in a life hack right here for everybody, because that's what I do. If you have a problem with positive motivation and believing that you're wired to win, let me give you 12-step philosophy. David will like this one. Fake it till you make it. If you can't be positive and you can't be motivated and you can't believe that you're wired to win, pretend that you are. Fake it. Maybe it'll wear off on you and your subconscious will take over at some point. Step 3, you got this. You're in real estate. You've been doing it for a while, which means you have some kind of idea of how real estate works. Why so much it is self-doubt at the end of the day, David. I mean, that is really the biggest issue for an agent to stay motivated. You got this, right? You are taking a company public on a very large scale. You got this, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you have it?
I do. I feel like we do. And because, now if you focus only on going public and what that means, then it's a little daunting. But if you focus, which is what I do, is what do I need to do today which are the building blocks that create the steps that get you to, to the top of the hill, it really becomes easier. I mean, it just goes down to the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One step, one bite at a time. And that's really all we're doing here. We know what we've got to do. We know when we're going public. We know how we're going public. And then everything else is really incremental. So, for instance, in order to go public, one of the things that you have to do is you have to buy, the way that we're doing it through a reverse merger, is you have to buy a public company. And so, so you reverse engineer those steps in order to do that. So it might include raising the money to be able to do that. It might include searching for the shell, vetting the shell, negotiating what the purchase of that is going to be, hiring the attorneys to get it all cleaned up, doing the SEC filings. Those are all steps that you have to do. And so, having done that, we are in escrow with we are in escrow. By the end of this month, we will own a publicly traded company. And then over the next 2 or 3 weeks, the attorneys will do all the filings. It'll change the name to Everhome, and then we begin the promotion phase of that, which is otherwise known as a roadshow, which begins in the middle of November, and then January 15th, it will be released to begin to trade publicly. Now, those are all just little steps along the way, but if you execute each of those individual steps, then next thing you know, you have a public company worth tens of millions of dollars or more.
Simple as that. Which takes us to the next step, embracing the uncertainty, right? You almost have to feel the glow of that situation. So to tie these two together with a life hack, most of you have been listening to these broadcasts for a while, and David and I have both seen this firsthand at conventions and on these calls, the paralysis of analysis. I've seen it with 12-step work. Oh, I got to know everything before I can actually do this. Embrace it. It doesn't matter that you don't know how it works, just embrace it and do it. So let's talk about embracing the uncertainty. I mean, there has to be, I think there's a healthy level of fear, and that's good, right? I've been asked this a lot, and lately someone asked me about this. Were you ever scared walking out on stage? I said, the first real stage I walked out on was 1,000 people in San Diego. I had no speaking experience whatsoever. I have been half naked fighting boy celebrities in front of 10,000 people. I never did that before either. I just embraced it. You got to just own it, follow these steps. I'm willing to do it. I put in the work. I know what I'm about to do. I'm going to own it. I got this. And then I'm going to embrace the uncertainty of it and hope for the best outcome. For you, David, especially with going public, there has to be a level of that within all of this. You've got to embrace the uncertainty of there's risk. There's risk and reward. It's go big or go home. And I think when you're talking about being successful, especially in real estate, you guys have been listening to these calls. Why are you having these odd debates about whether or not you can work with homeowners of a certain type or go out in this market just because it's COVID? Embrace it. Go do it. I know there's uncertainty. How is it for you?
Well, first of all, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in everything. I mean, even just a basic real estate business. But I have a couple of thoughts that I have all the time. Number one, if it was easy, anybody can do it. Another slogan, if you will, that I might, or mantra that I use sometimes is, I don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but I know that we're going to figure it out. So I have that swagger to, and the confidence to know that we're going to figure it out and make the adjustments necessary in order to make that happen. I also really strongly believe in the concept of point, shoot, and aim. That the number one hindrance to people achieving anything is really lack of effort. And what you say is paralysis of analysis. So, fear stops people in most cases. And you may not know exactly how it's going to end, and how you get to the end is probably not going to be the way that you mapped it out on paper or in your brain. But the reality is, if you have perseverance, you have a positive attitude, you focus on what you can do and what you can't do, and you just don't allow anything to dissuade you, then the reality is that you're likely to get there. Maybe a different route, maybe it takes longer, maybe it costs more money, but you will get there eventually, or along the path you'll find a better way to do what you thought. And that's kind of what happened to me here, is that when we started doing this, going public was not my idea. I just had what I thought was a great idea, and other people convinced me about the idea of taking this idea public and presenting it to the masses. And now I'm having calls with institutional investors every day who are offering hundreds of thousands of dollars to us to be part of this process before we go public, and to have the inside track of trading the moment it does go public. So it's an exciting time. It's just more reinforcement that we are onto something really great.
You are, indeed. Which takes us to the next steps. I am not my thoughts, I am my actions. I will say this definitively, that this is where I suffer the most. And it was my daughter who pointed out something great about me, my little 16-year-old. So my father passed away yesterday, and he's the guy who got me into real estate. It was a very heavy thing for me because it's an unresolved relationship. And because of that, I felt that I have been a bad dad. It's a true story. Those are my thoughts. It was my daughter who told me the opposite. And the reason I share that with everybody, the reason that my daughter thinks that I'm a better dad than I think I am, is because I have the thoughts of the way I was raised by my father. And I would physically do the opposite and say the opposite in almost every situation with my daughter, where I thought I would say something like, we shouldn't do that, we need to go home, you need to be quiet, any of those things, right? I would do the opposite. Let's go to Vegas. Let's order 2 pizzas, even if it sounds crazy. Let's just do the opposite of the way that I was raised. Let my actions speak out. And my daughter last night, point blank, she's like, you're great. I mean, that's the testimony to your actions overthinking your negative thoughts. And anybody who knows me knows this about me, that I think I'm a bad dad. But that's just in my head. Everybody who's around me will tell you the opposite. So how do you really apply this in real life to being successful at real estate, right, David? I mean, it's really our negativity that gets us down, right? I didn't get anything done today. I didn't do that. You know, it's that just constant grinding that we do to ourselves of, I didn't get enough done. I didn't do this. I should have done this. It seems to me that that would become so frustrating. And I suffer from it too, just like anybody else. How do you stay so focused to what your actions are as compared to what your thought process is?
Well, you know, I think they really have to be congruent. I mean, I can tell you this, from a marketing perspective, you have, in dealing with customers, and I'll see if I can circle it back to how it applies to me, but when we're dealing with customers, I might have on one day a customer says, you know, I'm not buying, don't call me anymore. And then the next day we see that they looked at 5 houses. So their actions would support that they actually are in the market to buy, but their words say that they're not. What do you believe? And I hope everybody answers, you believe their actions, not their words. So people really vote with their actions. People really display who they are by their actions. It's not good enough to say what you're going to do or to say what you believe. You've got to back it up with action. So having said that, from a business perspective and the way that we are building our business, yeah, most, you know, it goes to that, the idea of your thoughts become your words become your actions. And so you can, and scheduling is one of the things you're talking about, you can, through scheduling, you can change you can turn thoughts into actions, which ultimately equal the kind of results that you're going to do. So, I think that the reality is that sometimes you got to say it over and over and over again. This business that we've done is born based on one statement that I thought it, and then I said it out loud, and it still took a year probably before we got on it. And that was this. After closing a paperwork only transaction where a buyer and seller had found each other and we got paid $3,000 to do that, I remember saying out loud that if I could do 30 of these a month, that's $90,000 a month in revenue with one transaction coordinator and one agent, I'm saying it, I would never list a house again. I would never list a house again. And I repeated that to myself over and over and over again. And every time I did one of those transactions, I thought about that again. And finally, one day I said, let's do it. So there was a delay between what I was thinking to what I said before I finally decided to turn it into a commitment to really go for it. And when that happened, everything really started to accelerate, and what to do next started to become more and more clear. But I had to go through that process. So, I think at the end of the day, your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions really become your reality.
Which takes us to the next step, being
relentless.
You're welcome. By the way, it's perfect. Which takes us to our next step, being relentless. Lee, how do you go in front of a room of 1,000 people? How do you strip nearly buck naked and stand in front of 10,000 people? How do you drop an absurd amount of weight just because you want to try cage fighting or jujitsu? Because I'm relentless. I put my mind to it. I'm going to do it. Now, this is where all of these come into balance. My attitude of being relentless, much like today, I could easily get into a pity party and feel really bad today and stay in bed and be depressed and let that consume me. But I also know that getting up and taking action and being here on this call, doing the work that I have to do later on today, being behind the computer and getting those things done, this has cost me relationships. If there's a major sticking point that some of my exes have for me, it's the fact that I seem almost non-emotional on this topic. Well, I didn't have the balance of these other topics before, probably why I'm reading so many books to learn balance. But the one that I've got, I am relentless. When I want it, I'm going to do it. And I am a goal-oriented person. David, for your business and where you're going, it's obvious that it's happening for you, but how do you keep your team motivated on a goal and on their actions?
Well, we communicate a lot. We make sure that what they're doing is consistent with the bigger vision. We have to, these regular check-ins, really make sure that we're aligned. We do a lot of short meetings, what we call stand-ups, and in general, we just check in a lot with each other just to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with what we're trying to do. And I think in any good relationship, whether or not it's a marriage or a friendship or family relationships or business relationships, I think communication is a really important part of that, to make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction. And if there are issues, to kind of hash them out. I mean, my wife teaches me this more than anything, and that is, all disagreements are not bad. Oftentimes, the process of working through them actually strengthen the relationships and the bonds. And I think that's true in your marriages and with your family and with your colleagues as well.
It's always the ability to see both sides of an issue. And I agree to that. Perspective. He talks about this in the book of, if you really objectively looked at your problems and kept pulling back far enough to look at what you think is a problem or an argument for that matter, and give yourself enough perspective, they would almost become comical if you pulled back and could remove yourself enough from them. I know for me, based on my relationships, especially over the last couple of years, it has been important for me to learn this, right? I'm a huge believer in trying to understand both sides of a situation. If you have business relationships, if you have personal relationships, if you have life relationships where you don't think it's a 50-50, then you need to make some dramatic changes in your life. You can't continue to operate, because that's going to feed the negative thinking, and it is all strangely congruent, which takes us to our last step, David.
But hold on one second.
Yeah.
Just one point. If you're like 101 side, let's look at my work-life balance. Okay, 100 over here, and let's call it 80 work and 20 personal, right? The secret there is, it may be overwhelming to go. The objective may be to go from 80 to 50-50. Okay, but the way you get there is 75. 25, and then 70-30, and then 65-35, that kind of thing, so it's setting objectives, small incremental steps, minor adjustments, make them part of your routine, and then go from there. And to that extent, we were talking about that earlier, what I've started doing is the reason that I work so late into the evenings is because I'm in meetings all day long and I don't have time to get any work done. So by the time I get home, I got to do all the work that I had to do, plus answer an ungodly amount of emails. Okay. And so what I started to do is I started scheduling less meetings. I actually block out 3 1-hour periods in the middle of the day to do work. So I don't have to do that for 3 hours at night. And so now after dinner, instead of working till 10 o'clock at night with intense stuff, like I watched the World Series game last night. Okay, congratulations to the Dodgers. And I had my laptop out, but I wasn't doing any heavy lifting. It was just cleanup and maintenance, tinkering more than anything. And I was actually able to enjoy the game, even though I still wasn't able to just sit and just enjoy the game. I had to have my laptop with me, but that's a goal for down the road.
Well, yes, and that's the logic that I used when I went on every vacation with individuals, where I would bring a laptop with me to the pool going, yes, but I'm at the pool too. Little did I realize that I'm, objectively today, I go, people really liked it when I was a workaholic, a lot. I produced a whole lot for people, which takes us to our final step of the UnFu series. I expect nothing and accept everything. Your problems don't derail you. Your hidden expectations do. And I can tell you definitively, for me, my biggest issue in life, the thing that creates the most resentments, the thing that has caused breakups, the things that has caused friction in business or otherwise, is my preconceived misconception of how things are going to turn out, instead of this is just going to play out. It's not bad to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, and F. I'm all for that. In fact, I don't think I'm ever going to change that about me. I'm learning to embrace it more and create more options for what's about to happen. It's what happens in life, and I think this happens to many people, even in real estate. I've got a plan A, B, and C. Well, D happened. Now what? Right? So now the negative thoughts start. That's going to overwhelm my relentlessness. It's going to overwhelm my I got this. I am now in a situation where the uncertainty is the all-consumer in this moment. How do you just stay with the flow, David? I mean, you are literally juggling a lot of balls right now. How are you keeping it right in the middle?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, this is really simple for me, and that is I focus on what I know, not what I fear. I mean, I make decisions based on what I know to be for sure, not what I'm afraid of. And I think that if you can figure out how to do that, it really makes it simple. My brain is so free of hypotheses. Plan A. I got a loose. If that doesn't happen, then we can do this and we can do that. But I put all my energy on plan A, and then let the chips fall where they may. And if I get new information, in other words, if things are different than what I was thinking, then I get to make a new decision based on that new information. But I do not plan for all contingencies. I make my decisions on things that I know for sure, and I leave the what ifs for another day. And if those what ifs start to manifest itself as truth, then I reevaluate and make a new decision based on new information.
Yeah, completely. I can safely say that this is one of the sticking points of things I'm working on for future relationships with people. When my plans work, it's great in a relationship, right? Wow, you've put so much time and effort and thought into how this all worked out. Well, if we're 5 minutes late, it's going to ruin it for me. And that's what happens to me. I put so much time into the planning of, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to have this reservation, instead of, oh, now we're 5 minutes late, and that's offset my entire thought process. Yeah, it's the one that I struggle the most with and that I'm working on for me. It's been very difficult for me to learn to go with the flow and to be understanding of the situation. It is very difficult for those I've had relationships with, because it's not that I carry structure, it's that I carry, this is how it should be. And
well, some people might call that control issues.
Maybe, David. And therefore, it is important to be in a relationship with somebody who has control issues themselves. And therefore, the two of you can have seriously great friction when it comes to control issues.
Well,
so I'm definitely working on that in my future. Well,
there is something really freeing about not being in charge of everything. Not being in charge of everything. There's something magical about the weight that is removed from your shoulders when you just don't have to predict or control every single outcome, that you just focus on being okay, no matter what the outcome is. So, I guess we're wrapping up. So one of my favorite quotes from a movie came, I don't know, I can't remember, the Marigold Hotel or something like that. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I remember this quote: everything's going to be okay in the end. If everything is not okay, it's not the end.
Well, I'm going to add one since we're on this topic, and it is from the late, great Bruce Lee. Be like water. It's still enough to move a mountain, but it also has the ability to flow around it when it can't move it. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go visit everhome.io if you're a real estate agent and you want to learn more in the California area. That's where they're going to start off at, but they will be going nationwide, and they're looking for broker partners. Visit everhome.io. If you're a homeowner who's managed to listen to this, go to everhome.io and find out how you can list your property on the multiple listing service and be exposed to hundreds of thousands of agents in California. I'd like to thank David Bartels for joining us. My name's Lee Honish. Thanks, everyone.